So, Hare Krishna, dear ladies. Welcome to the January Urban Devi Sangha and Women's Discussion Group. A special welcome to those joining us for the first time. If you are joining us for the first time, please write it in the chat so that we can all say hello. My name is Damodar Priya Devi Dasi, and I co-host this monthly gathering with our dear Rukmini Devi Dasi, or Rukmini Walker, and Surba Govinda Devi Dasi. And also joining us today is our god sister, Amrita-keli Devi Dasi. Please know that our dear Rukmini is currently traveling in India, so she can't join us today. However, she sends her love and prayers for today's gathering. So let me introduce our guest speaker for today. Amrita-keli Devi Dasi met the Hare Krishnas as a 14-year-old when she was visiting her sister at the University of Florida in Gainesville. At 17, she interviewed and experienced a day in the life with the Krishna House devotees for a religion project. Then onward, she felt that Hare Krishna people knew God, and she was determined to live near the devotees, so she studied cultural anthropology at UF from 2005 to 2009, where she volunteered at Krishna Lunch and Krishna House. She then moved into the ashram in 2008, studied Bhakti Shastri in Vrindavan in 2010, took initiation, moved back to Jacksonville, which is near Florida, to serve as Hare Krishna chaplain at the University of North Florida in 2012. Then in 2015, she and her husband, Leela Kishore, opened Bhakti House, where UNF Krishna Club students could live in an ashram and deepen their practice and serve together. Amrita-keli and Leela Kishore have welcomed their first of their two children in 2018. And after the COVID lockdown and Leela Kishore's journey through cancer, they craved closer association and emotional healing. And that's when they moved to Alachua, Florida in 2022, where their children are now. And they attend Bhaktivedanta Academy, where Amrita-keli teaches 4th and 6th grade. Oh, 4th to 6th grade, sorry. That's right, it's a Montessori school, so there's a kind of grading to it. So the topic that Amrita-keli is going to be speaking with us today is life lessons from Srila Prabhupada's disciples. So she's going to be sharing how during COVID, the Alachua devotee community was trying to brainstorm ways to stay connected. And they thought of the idea of Nectar Talks. It's an interview podcast that interviews Srila Prabhupada disciples and finds out directly from them, like, how does bhakti look like? How does it manifest? And she's going to be sharing all her insights from that service with us today. So thank you so much for joining us, Amrita-keli. The floor is yours.
Thank you so much, Damodar Priya. Thank you, Nartaki Radha. Thank you, Sravi. And thank you, Rukmini Prabhu. It's so nice to be here with this whole Sangha. I will admit right here, right now, my heart is racing. I'm just honored to be with you. And I hope that what we shared together today is just feels relevant to all of us. So thank you so much for having me. And Hare Krishna. So I'll start just by sharing that Damodar Priya Prabhu had invited me to the Urban Devi Sangha, and I was able to be on one of the meetings that Rukmini Prabhu was speaking at. Oh, you may hear me use the word Prabhu. For those of you who aren't familiar with this language, from time to time, the word Prabhu might come up. When I refer to someone by their name, I might say it after. It means teacher. It's just a respectful way of saying this person teaches me through their example, through their life, like that. So if you hear it, that's what that mysterious Sanskrit word means, Prabhu. So during that conversation, I think it was called the Dearmost Friend, Rukmini was talking about what I captured from it the most was talking about feelings of failure that we may find ourselves having in our spiritual path. Basically, for me, what that means, what that can translate to is not being where I want to be yet, right? Like, I really want to have an open heart for the divine, for Krishna. And maybe I'm not there yet. And so she was so encouraging about how we can actually embrace that mood to soften in humility towards God. So I may have my attachments, I may be slow to learn or slow to approach God. I may believe in God, but am I really relying on God or calling out to God with love every day the way that I want to be? No. But does that have to pull me into shame or pull me into performative practice? That can tend to rise up for me, where I think, like, if I do more, I'll feel better about myself. And what I got from her in that conversation was, it's not about doing more. It's about resting in grace and love, knowing that it's okay to be exactly where I'm at. That's where Krishna wants me to approach him from. That's sincerity. That's being simple in spiritual life. And that is so beautiful. I feel like that creates such a fertile ground for bhakti to develop and grow, rather than like, I'm just going to push forward. I'm going to do more because I'll feel more worthy. I'll feel more like I'm not just taking up space. I'm doing something important. Now, working hard and doing something important aren't terrible things. They're wonderful things. But if my motive is out of fear or shame, then I've got a misconception that I think is holding me back. So I felt so touched by that conversation. I felt like she had really clearly shown me where the two choices that I can kind of lean into when it comes to accepting myself where I'm at. And I felt like that was a life lesson. And it really helped me to identify what I wanted to dive into today, which is how these life lessons that we can pick up are dropped all along the way by beautiful people in our journey, and how we can collect this nectar that can change our misconceptions about what it means to have a relationship with God, how to serve God, because that's a big question. Like, I want to love God, but how do I show that love? You know, so many things that have been untangled for me in getting to know devotees and just hearing their story and hearing their realizations. So in the introduction, Damodar Priya was talking about Nectar Talks. So that's a podcast that I've been a part of since 2020. And what happened in 2020 was the Alachua community, which is a big Hare Krishna community. I think it's the biggest Hare Krishna community outside of India, definitely in North America. And there are a lot of Prabhupada disciples here. So Srila Prabhupada is the founder of the ISKCON, the International Society for Krishna Consciousness Movement. And he's the founder of our movement. He is the translator of our books, and he's the spiritual master, the spiritual teacher of many, many of the older devotees who live in Alachua. So the devotees wanted to stay connected during COVID. You know, our temple community is super robust. The programs are always like highly attended, and here we are completely separated from one another. I was in Jacksonville. I was a new mom, okay? And I was going through sort of an identity crisis because I had been a chaplain. So I had been like a spiritual mentor running a Krishna club at the university for 7 years. And we had a Bhakti house, which was like a small ashram where college students lived with us, and we did morning programs together and outreach together. So after the birth of my son, I actually felt like I had to keep going with the same intensity as before, because that's just what I needed to do. I felt like it was my identity. And so I would bring my son to our meetings in his car seat, and then people would pass him around. And there was a sweetness to it, but like, it's college students, so it's undeniable that there's like a little bit of like a mix there that doesn't fit after a bit. And I started to feel like I wasn't doing justice to either my motherhood because I was constantly thinking like I should be on campus or, this, that, and the other, cooking, planning, all that. And on the other hand, I'm there and I'm thinking like my son needs me. He really needs me. He needs my heart. He needs my attention. So I retired from that service, but I was going through a big shift, and it was scary for me. And I think maybe that will be more relatable later. But they approached me. That's Madhurya Leela and Namamrita approached me to do this Nectar Talks podcast, and I was so happy to have something to latch on to during that time, but I had no idea the gifts that it had in store. We interview people from the whole gamut. We love interviewing young people, both in age and in experience, all the way up to our senior devotees who have been around for 50, 60 years, sometimes practicing in Krishna consciousness. Everyone has something, if not so much, to teach us. So I'm just going to go into a few of the beautiful things that I have garnered from that experience, some unravelings and some inspirations. And then I really look forward to hearing from you also. How has spiritual association impacted your life? How have people taught you things about the way you think when it comes to approaching God or approaching service? And also, have there been misconceptions that are healing, that are beginning to heal or have healed because of what you've learned from others on a spiritual path? Ways that you find that your practice has become more simple, more authentic to you, when you kind of step outside of your own mind and into your heart with the help of other devotees. So the first thing that I wanted to share is that Srila Prabhupada unites all of us. So who is Srila Prabhupada? If you come to the Sangha and you're new, you're probably going to hear from him a bit. But he is the person who translated the sacred Vedic scriptures for the Western world and literally traveled the globe 13 times in his old age as a renunciate, with nothing to his name, teaching about Krishna. The amazing thing about Srila Prabhupada is that we have so much evidence of his character. So it can feel a little bit strange, especially for the Western mind, to hear a person being glorified. I think we can feel like our intelligence says like, well, who is this person? Do they deserve that? And that is intelligent. So then we have to look at the character of the person and we can learn about them. And luckily we have these amazing texts that get into the spiritual science of Bhakti. And Srila Prabhupada has written purports under all the verses that really illuminate his spiritual mind and heart. So right there, we can get to know Srila Prabhupada through his books. And from there, we can learn for ourselves who this person is. Doesn't matter that he's no longer on the planet. He passed away in the 70s. We can get to know him through his writings. Additionally, there are like incredible biographies that have been written about Prabhupada. There's something called the Prabhupada Amrita, which is the story of his life, which gives accounts from everyone from the beginning of his life until the end, and how he dealt with people, how he manifested spiritual qualities like compassion and liberality and purity, right? So we can see how he actually interacts with others. And we can take that into account when we approach the Krishna consciousness movement. So I have, in getting to know Srila Prabhupada, I've been amazed at his display of unifying spiritual inspiration for all of us. And the thing is that in a spiritual movement, we we're not perfect. None of us are perfect. But if we're on the path, then all these gems are undoubtedly going to pour out from us along the way. So if we encounter, because it does happen sometimes, we might encounter people who have been practicing for a long time who hurt others or who hurt us or who disappoint us in Krishna consciousness. Okay, that is inevitable. It's I kind of see it as, yeah, it's just the human experience. And yet, everyone who I've met, they really want to keep Srila Prabhupada in the center. And Srila Prabhupada keeps Krishna in the center, like without exception. So there is so much, there's a level of trust that we can enter into if we feel comfortable. That those around us may not be perfect. I'm certainly not perfect. But if we're all, it's said that Srila Prabhupada has built a house where the whole world can live. And we can share beautiful things with each other on that journey, imperfections and all, because at the heart of it is God, is Krishna. And so that's something that has been really beautiful, is just hearing devotees keeping Krishna in the center through the teachings of Srila Prabhupada. So that's one. The second is, okay, so before I went to college, I was totally obsessed with like alternative cultures. I wanted to learn everything about Eastern culture, Native American culture. I wanted to run away and live on an island and grow food, anything outside of Western culture. Okay, so diversity, like National Geographic was what do you say? Like it was everything to me. I loved other religions, other languages, ways of dressing. The world is a colorful place. So that meant so much to me. Then I studied anthropology in college and I got serious in my Krishna consciousness. Why is it that at a certain point I started thinking to be successful on a spiritual path, that probably looks a certain way. That probably looks like Mother Teresa, or it probably looks like Mirabai, or it probably looks like Jesus, which are all really like big conflated notions of what it means to be a spiritual person, first of all. Although Mother Teresa, Jesus, and Mirabai certainly wouldn't think of themselves as big, right? They actually thought of themselves as the smallest, the humble servant. But my vision of what it meant to be a successful spiritual practitioner was like, I've got to help the world, like in a really big way. So the concept of like, how does a devotee work? How does a devotee act? Even, it's funny because Arjuna, we have a text called the Bhagavad Gita, the Song of God. It's a conversation between Arjuna and Krishna. And Arjuna and Krishna are friends and they're also cousins, but Arjuna submits himself to Krishna and asks for guidance, spiritual guidance. And Krishna, they have this amazing conversation where all these spiritual truths are revealed. And Arjuna actually asks him, like, what does a devotee walk like? What do they talk like? And Krishna doesn't say, a devotee changes the whole world with their service. A devotee, they give up everything and they only do this one thing. It looks like this, a devotee dresses this way, a devotee blah, blah, blah. He never says anything like that. So, but why did I develop something like that in my brain? I have no idea, but I think it has to do with pride. I I think I do have an idea. I think it's pride, okay? It's got to be big, like go big or go home. So what Krishna says is that the one who is not, the one who works for me, but is not attached to the results, who's just meditating on me, is the one who gives me pleasure. So he wants us to work in the world. He actually says he says of either renouncing everything and not working at all and living in a cave, or doing work for Krishna. He prefers us to be active. But what does it mean to be active for him? That's so personal. It is as personal as many people as there are, is as many types of work for God that exist, because there's only one of you and there's only one of me. Okay, so in interviewing people, I have really seen over and over again the variety of work in devotion. And it is nothing short of beautiful. I wish I had another word for it, but it's really touching, because you see people exploring things and then getting into these incredible niches that another devotee can't even dream of doing. Another person can't even dream of doing, right? And they're happy. They're feeling inspired. Yes, there are challenges along the way. Yes, there are failures along the way. But that work is done in line with your nature, with your personality. You don't have to be anyone else. I don't have to be anyone else. I remember hearing that so many times early on in my Krishna consciousness. Just be you. And for some reason, that has been a long, unwinding process for me. Still is. I'm still learning how to be me for Krishna, for God. So this has been this celebration of diversity, and through hearing people's stories, seeing that diversity has opened up my heart to being curious about what I can do for Krishna, and being and celebrating what other people do without feeling afraid. Oh, they're doing something so meaningful, or they're so empowered. We all are. Whether we're changing diapers, or right, or we're temple presidents. It does not matter. We are all doing something empowered and meaningful because our heart is in it and it's in line with our personhood. How great is that? Okay, next lesson. This is a big one for me. I feel kind of like I have a very hard head. I can't wait to the breakout sessions, because I can't wait to hear if any of this feels like you can relate. So I'm just being vulnerable here. Devotional life happens in chapters. Chapters. Different chapters. So I was plagued with this question: what is my purpose? What is my calling? What am I meant to do in this life? That's like a huge question. And if I want a specific answer, which I did, it can be extremely frustrating. And it can actually lead to, in my case, feelings of like a lack of inspiration, or feelings of pain. It manifested as feelings of pain. Like, I don't know my purpose. Okay, I don't know the big thing, the one thing, small or big, that I'm supposed to do in this life. Am I meant to be a teacher? Am I meant to be this, that, the other? And what I've realized is that life happens in chapters, and there are actually many phases, many projects that we can work on that align with us. So making it personal for me for this moment in time, um, I'm a mom whose children are almost 8 and 5. So for many years, my children were very young children. Um, I was still trying to, I feel like I wasn't able to fully be present in being a mother of young children because I didn't respect it as a chapter that deserved my fully present attention. In that chapter, God can teach me and does teach me so many things and gives me so many opportunities to learn and grow. And that goes for every chapter, whether we're in college and we think, okay, like, what am I learning? How am I growing, like, deep in my character during this time? I've heard a lot of college students who get into spiritual life ask those questions. But the resources for spiritual inspiration are there in that chapter. Okay, some of us stay in college, some of us don't stay in college, but the chapter itself can reveal so much when we open our hands to it. We have chapters of loss where we're heartbroken and we need to receive. If we don't, then what are we doing? We're running on empty. We start to feel completely overwhelmed. We can become doubtful. We feel like, I can't keep going like this. But if we allow ourselves to be broken and to receive in that chapter, what beautiful things can come of it. That we're not always trying to produce or give or put out. Sometimes receiving is a gift to others, isn't it? Because they have an opportunity to be present with us, to accompany us on that dark night. And there is so much for us there too. So in again, devotees have spiritual, the spiritual people. Every person, every human has a story, a crazy story, full of colorful chapters. And when I hear spiritualists talking about their life, I confirm over and over to myself, okay, life is full of all kinds of exciting twists and turns. None of it is predictable to me. None of it. And even the moment of death, we learn in our philosophy, is just one more turn in that road. It's another chapter, and then there's another one after that, right? So it's amazing, this journey, and it's not just all one big block, this black and white block of what am I supposed to do in this life. I mean, there's a big answer for that, which is to love and receive love, and to reawaken that connection with the divine, with Krishna. But how will that play out? That's the mystery. That's the Krishna magic that we're all invited to receive. So that's life in chapters. Okay, the next one. Devotees become more beautiful with age. Wow. So I was just overhearing a conversation with my wonderful mother and my husband, where my mother was saying, I'm really struggling right now because I feel in my retirement that all I'm doing is playing. And I want to be of service. And it really, 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 I appreciated that so much. Because the soul wants to be active in service. And for one who practices service throughout their life, it becomes more it becomes stronger, more clear, more radiant, more unattached, just more joyful. Not in the sense of, oh my gosh, not like that, but like deep inner satisfaction. And that is available to us until and after the moment that we leave this body. And um, I think it's in one of our scriptures. I think it's Srimad Bhagavatam. It talks about the rising and the setting of the sun bring the living entity closer to death, except one that is on the devotional path, the path of love with God. It actually brings one day closer to that supreme object of affection. And so you can actually see that radiating out of people. And the whole standard of beauty, we traditionally appreciate elders as wise and important in culture. And in the last, I don't know how long, what has it been? 70 years? I feel like there's been a shift way out of that. And as a woman who is like starting to kind of say goodbye to her youth, it can feel like, oh yeah, this is real. Like, we're not our body. Our body is aging. The soul feels eternal, but the body is not. And society does not want me to age. But then I look at these devotees and I see their beauty accelerating. And it's real because it's coming deep. It's coming from deep within. And it's transformative, actually, isn't it? To be in contact with someone who you feel has true heart-centered beauty. Another thing on that, I'm just checking the time. I have about 10 minutes. Great. There were two devotees who I interviewed who passed away after interviewing them. What an honor, right? And both of them had very strong inspirations in their current service. So Sudharma Prabhu had been embarking on the Hare Krishna community radio. And, Sudharma had been a globe-trotting renunciate in her youth. I mean, she had gone to Malaysia and like all over South Asia and the Pacific Northwest and done all these cool things, like doing outreach as a single mendicant. And she loved it. So now, being an older woman who had a lot of health challenges, she was really limited in terms of her physical capacity. So what does she do? She starts a radio station from her house. And it was so inspiring for her. And she liked to meet and talk about the radio station and just kind of like riff about this program, what we could do with that, like how, and she wanted people who had creative desires to come and make their dreams happen on the Hare Krishna community radio for the benefit of all, right? And this vision, it was so nourishing to her, and it was contagious talking with her about it. And she was making it happen and then left her body. So the adventure never ends. That's a lesson that I'm learning, is that age is of no consequence. It really isn't. Our limitations can become assets if we ask for help in making them so, right? I can say, oh, I'm so limited in this way. I'll just wallow here. which Krishna understands. He's not going to be upset with us in any way. I mean, the material world is hard and he loves us. He understands. But we can also feel inspired too and ask for help. So Shanka Prabhu was another devotee who said he had stage 4 leukemia, I think. And he said, my dream is to train up the next generation of Sunday love feast cooks for Krishna, because he had been cooking the Sunday feast for years, and he really, really wanted to see that baton passed. And he was saying, I'm working on this cookbook, I'm working on this cookbook, and he's getting youth involved in the kitchen. The adventure never ends. And what a gift to give to us, to be an older person with a bucket list. I mean, in terms of opulence, in terms of wealth, I think that is a spiritualist's wealth, is to feel inspired, to feel inspired all the way up until our departure, and to not feel that death has to be an end, that death has to be something to be afraid of. It might interrupt our service, which might be frustrating. But what a beautiful way to look at it, to become frustrated that our service is interrupted. But hey, if that's the will of the universe, of God, then so be it, And then devotees who are in good health, like Akuti Prabhu, during her interview, she said, I think I still got some in me. I still got some magic up my sleeve. I don't know what it's going to be. I want to do something cool, but I know I want to do an Nrsimhadev temple. And by God, that Nrsimhadev temple, 4 years later, 5 years later, is almost finished. But at that time, it was only here and here. I mean, it makes me speechless, honestly. And then, yeah, the adventure continues. Okay, let's see. All right. Failure can bring us closer to Krishna. So failure in devotional life isn't really failure. Even Srila Prabhupada writes about this. There is no failure for someone on the spiritual path, because we're constantly learning and growing. Failure can bring us, as I mentioned earlier, it can bring me into a more humble state of mind, where I feel more fertile in my heart for prayer, and rather than just willing on myself and my own self-propulsion, I learn, like, I'm not infallible. I fail people, I fail projects, right? And that hurts. And I have to learn from that. I get to learn from that. So I don't have to fear failure. I don't really ask devotees, like, what's your biggest failure? Tell us all about it. So we don't really go there so much, but sometimes we'll ask questions that feel relevant to us, and we'll get their advice on it, right? So Namamrita he also co-hosts the show, and we're openly a part of the recovery groups, and he's big with the Bhakti recovery group. And so recently he asked Chaturanga Prabhu, if you're a devotee and you are having trouble with addiction, it can feel very isolating. It can feel like you can exclude yourself out of shame. What do you do? Like, what do you think about that? And Chaturanga Prabhu was really clear. He was like, if you're so stressed as a devotee that you have to lean into addictive behavior, then address it. Address it. Not like addictive behavior is fine. Like we should all accept each other no matter what. Of course we should accept each other no matter what. But the level even beyond that is to see it as a struggle, see it for what it is, and go to those that we can trust and ask for help and support. Vulnerability is how we grow in personalism, in relationships. And if we have one person that we can trust with information like that, then we can, the doors can really unlock to trusting Krishna with our failures, right? So it can be a gateway into intimacy, basically. That we're ultimately, that's what we are missing, that we're looking to fill with other things. So it was just such a beautiful reminder from him that Sangha is there for you. You know, that is what it's for. And it's so, it's what the heart craves. So give it to yourself. Don't seclude yourself away from that. Give yourself that gift, even if it means admitting failures, because we all have them. Okay, lastly, this is my closing here. Well, maybe I'll sneak one more in after the closing. Conflict happens. So cool. This comes up in conversations. Conflict happens in devotional Sangha. We might think that if we're all trying to be servants of God, we're all trying to do that together, that we should really get along all the time, you know? There shouldn't be any problems. And if there's problems, we should run for the hills. Now, hey, I get it. If there's like weird stuff happening, you got to use your intuition and protect yourself, right? That goes without saying. But oftentimes there's just interpersonal conflict that comes from growth opportunities for all of us. Mukhi Prabhu talked about that in terms of the Alachua community, because she pointed out in Alachua, we don't even have, like, there isn't even one cultural group that has like, that has majority over another. There's, you know, there's Russians, there's the Latino community, there's Indians, there's, you know, white Americans. Like, it's so mixed that there isn't one majority in our community. And a lot of people have to work together, even with different first languages, to get projects done across like very diverse areas in the community. And conflict happens. But what I realized from having these conversations, and with others like Keshi Hanta Prabhu as well, is that who works with the cows, is that conflict seems to be by design. Meaning Krishna knows that, like, if we're going to learn how to be truly personal with each other, it's not always going to be easy. Just like in a marriage, just like with your children, just like with your best friend. It's not going to be easy. Love doesn't mean easy. Love means making mistakes, making amends, continuing to work together, and trying our very, very best, giving each other the benefit of the doubt. And in my time at Krishna House, we were reminded that it's like being in a rock tumbler. So like we're all beautiful rocks, but we have these rough edges, you know? That tumbler, it's just mashing you all together like in a condensed space for a period of time. And what happens is, oh, you feel your ego getting rubbed down, and it's uncomfortable. And sometimes you have these conversations with yourself about being right or them being wrong. And then finally, you kind of, if you rely on Krishna, you can kind of like, you know, mellow down a little bit and realize we all play a part here. And but over a lifetime, what happens to those rocks that have willingly placed themselves in that tumbler, giving one another the best, the benefit of the doubt, and having the best intentions in those relationships? Remarkable things happen. Conflict happens, but by design, for our purification. So just to close before I'll before we'll do our breakout sessions and I can hear from all of you, I'll just say that this, I believe it was Yamuna Devi, who coined the term Krishna magic. I think it was her. And she talked a lot about the Krishna magic, which is that mysterious and phenomenal experience of feeling like Krishna's hand is directly in our lives and that he is presenting us with opportunities beyond our wildest imagination. And what I have learned from hearing these stories is that Krishna magic is ever present and ever available to us. We just have to be ready and willing to to accept it. Sorry, I was just reading a comment, but and I'll give two examples of that quickly. So I hope that this is about a devotee named Mother Ruchira or Ruchira. I hope she doesn't mind me sharing, but it's in her interview. Okay, so it's for the common. Anyway, she in the 90s, having been a devotee for decades already, since she was a young teenager, she was in Mayapur in India, walking towards Srila Prabhupada's Samadhi, which is a place where he's it's a place of auspiciousness marked for our teacher. Okay. And she's walking towards it and she had this vision of herself milking a cow. And she said it was such a strong vision that she had to stop, like in the road. She had never milked a cow before in her life. Now, if you know Mother Ruchira, she is like a foremost expert of cow caregiving. They have, her and her husband and family have many cows and have been taking care of them since then. And she makes the most famous milk products out of that cow's milk. Like people will, I mean, you would beg, borrow, and steal to get, okay, I got a block of butter that she made at a festival. And I just walked around with a block of butter and people, and I would ask people like, this is, Ruchira made this from her cow's milk. Would anyone like some? People were flying towards that block of butter because it's famous. Okay. She had no idea. She had no idea how to take care of a cow. It's inconceivable to me to think of her not knowing how to care for cows because her whole life revolves around this extremely glorious service. So I'm going to close there, and I want to thank you all so much for your time and for your presence, and I very much look forward to hearing from you. Hare Krishna.
Thank you so much, Amrita-keli. That such a great kind of anecdote to finish with for this part of the talk, at least. So, just so for those who are new here, we're going to be going to the breakout rooms. Before I pause the recording, just want to share the breakout questions or reflection questions that Amrita-keli prepared for us. So we're going to be talking about what have Srila Prabhupada's disciples taught you through their own lives, and have devotees informed or healed how you think of yourself, your devotional path, or your service, and how so. So let's take a Okay, so welcome back to Urban Devi. This is our reflections and Q&A section. This is our time to ask questions of Amrita-keli or give our reflections on, what inspired us of what she spoke about. Is there something that you would like her to dive deeper into right now? So please go ahead and raise a virtual hand and I will call on you so that we can start. And if people are feeling shy, there was someone that left early that left me with a question, Amrita-keli. So I'll go ahead and ask that since folks are being shy. So she had to go, but she said that you had mentioned being overwhelmed with the diversity of ways that people can serve Krishna, and that we're having trouble thinking of a positive word for it. But she wanted to know, can you share any specific examples that are really uncommon that kind of surprised you? You just have to unmute yourself, though.
Rookie mistake there.
No worries.
I remember this devotee is like, he wanted to build a time machine since he was young. And now he's like an astrophysicist and he works with brains and stuff like that. And and I remember kind of getting into it a little bit with him about connecting work with Krishna and how it felt so obvious to him that his work was connected to Krishna. And so meeting people, yeah, that have these like really sort of wild and real aspirations that make sense in their spiritual quest, has just been outrageously fun. Trying to think if there's anything that like otherwise super super stands out. Maybe I'm sure among all of us we could come up with a bunch.
I mean, you already kind of hit it out of the park with somebody wanting to do a time machine. And I think I know who you were talking about, Murli Gopal, right? He's an astrophysicist.
Yes, and you know
Yeah.
what? Radhanath Swami actually, he told that to Radhanath Swami, and Radhanath Swami said, "Can you build me a time machine to bring me into the present?" And right, it was like he was like, "Oh!" Like when he said that, he was like, "But I want to build a time machine," you know. So it was just such a really really cool exchange. Anyway.
That's awesome. Thank you so much for sharing. I'm sure she'll appreciate seeing this when she's watching the recording. So I see that Tonya has her hand up and we haven't heard from you before. Would you like to share, please?
Hi, yes, thank you. I know it's spelled with an O, it's Tanya, but thank you. It's normal. Everyone does it differently. I just wanted to say one of my biggest takeaways, Amrita, was when you said that conflict is by design, especially in, our spiritual communities and really everywhere, but particularly in like our, growing sanghas and as we're going through some growing pains. And I think that's really beautiful. And the analogy that you made about, smoothing the edges in a rock tumbler, as we're growing. I just went up to, I participate remotely in a spiritual community, and I decided that I wanted to bring in the new year in proximity to that community. So I just went up to visit and spent 5 days. And during those days, I visited with many different friends in that spiritual community, and everybody's going through a thing, whatever it is, and it was really nice to hear the different perspectives. And it was also very timely to hear that, in any group of people trying to do something, build something, grow themselves in a community that's also growing, there's growing pains. And I just absolutely loved that analogy that this is by Krishna's design. It's bringing up the things that need to be addressed and discussed and smoothed out, whether it's an anartha that's just your issue that's projecting, or whether it's a thing that needs to be discussed as a group. I just thought it was a beautiful reflection, and thank you for your time. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Tanya.
And I saw that we had Radhika had her hand up. So Radhika, did you want to go ahead and share? Or did we lose Radhika? Okay, well,
Radhika,
feel free.
you're muted.
Oh, is she muted and trying to speak? Yeah. See, you're not the only one, Amrita-keli. Krishna plays these kind of tricks with everybody all the time.
Oh, there we go.
There you are.
I felt so speechless. So yes, thank you again for speaking, Amrita-keli. And yeah, as a householder who's had a big curiosity for a while about what it would be like to live in an ashram, and it's funny, I participate in Bhakti SF as a volunteer once in a while, But now they're talking about opening up rooms. So they're actually building infrastructure to make it sort of like an ashram. So yeah, I wonder, before I actually dive into like a renunciate's life, how could I learn about some aspects of what it's like to live in a temple?
Wow, that's a really, really cool question. You know, there are places that have guests stay in ashrams for a short period of time. Like you could stay for a weekend or a week. I know Krishna House often does that with people. Um, so if you want to experience an ashram, you could ask for a list of ashrams. I think I could say, just for myself, I think Krishna House could provide a cool list of ashrams like Bhakti Center or other places that have nice programming. And then you could reach out and ask if someone can accommodate for a week or a weekend, and you could plan a trip around it and get a taste for it and see what it's like. No two ashrams are the same. So you might want to, like, ask questions first and see, yeah, just see what feels most relevant to you. Or ask someone that knows you. Ask someone that knows you in your community. Like, do you see this as a valuable next step? Do you see a space where I can come and check it out before like diving in? Maybe they would have a guest room available to you before making any kind of a commitment. I think that's really wise, um, because it is a big change and you want to go into it without feeling like you're trapped. You want to feel like you've got your eyes wide open, and um, what's in store. You don't know what's in store, but you at least know the lay of the land, and you can feel comfortable in that. You feel it's a safe and healthy community to move into. So again, I would request that anyone else who wants to share
Thank
on
you.
that can chime in.
Yes, and thank you for being vulnerable that way, Radhika, and asking that. And we also do have the WhatsApp groups where you can have a discussion and get some suggestions from the other urban Davies as well. So thank you so much, Amrita-keli. I just want to ask a question that was put in the chat before we move on to some of the other folks who have their hands up, just because it's such a beautiful question. Any suggestions to help get through times when we don't feel like we are where we want to be spiritually, and not get discouraged? And when we don't have devotees in close proximity? And they wrote, this group really helped me today.
So beautiful. Well, I can highly recommend that previous Urban Devi talk by Rukmini on Krishna, the Dearmost Friend, because it had me like just shredding up. I mean, it was so beautiful. I think hearing from other people, there is something special for me about hearing from women also, because I feel like we just have a shared experience in a variety of ways, and it feels very there's a kinship involved in hearing from another woman about this and talking about it. It doesn't, I know physical proximity is such a gift, and it is so important to hug and to feel each other's literal body, and to get to exchange association physically. But if it's not possible, Krishna has no limitations. And so we can connect. We're so fortunate in that sense that we can connect digitally, or by the phone anytime. Um, I would just say pick up the phone. Sometimes when I know for myself, when I'm going through something difficult, somehow that's the hardest time to reach out, because it's vulnerable to say, I need your help, or I need your care. I just need to share what's coming up for me. But when we do, the the what ensues for me is always feeling closer to Krishna afterwards, and feeling such a strong appreciation for these humans who Krishna has placed in our life on purpose. So just know you're not alone, and we're all trying that together. So yeah, we can all try that together. This literal group.
Thank you, Amrita-keli, and thank you, Pamela, again for the question. And as you can see in the chat, there's ways for us to continue this. Go on the WhatsApp groups, continue to come to the Urban Devis. And my dear co-host Nartaki Radha would like to share. Please go ahead.
Yeah, Amrita-keli, thank you so much for this talk. Damodar Priya and I were going back and forth about just how much this talk was meant specifically for my life and my particular journey right now. The comment on life being in chapters was so profound for me, not only as I have been working on writing my story and witnessing those chapters coming through, but also feeling Krishna really, really pushing me to open up to a new chapter in my life. And it's scary. It's terrifying of thinking about this new chapter and what it's going to take from me, but also that reliance on Krishna at the same time. And so just remembering to go back and see in our lives those chapters of difficulty, those chapters of vulnerability, and recognizing that Krishna's presence has been there is what's helping me take it to the next level and take this next step. So I just wanted to offer my gratitude to you for the Krishna magic and for the ways that Krishna spoke through you to me with this talk. Thank you so much.
So nice to be with you, Nartaki Radha, and to share that in common with you. That has helped me breathe such a sigh of relief. Chapters, even when a scary chapter is coming, a scary chapter doesn't mean from here until forever, you know? So it makes it more like, it makes it easier to trust Krishna. You know, this is a chapter.
It enters us into that adventure. And when we enter with curiosity, that's when the adventure deepens. And that's when we can really hone in on the Krishna magic, is that curiosity of, okay, Krishna, what do you have next? You're being a little bit mischievous now. What are you doing here? And knowing that he is open for all of us, for exactly as we're showing up. He's open to that. And we'll speak through as we become curious and open our hearts.
So thank you both. And Surbi Govinda, you can please share.
Yes, hi. Thank you so much for a beautiful talk, Amrita. That was really wonderful. I think in the practice of bhakti, we always talk about how the parampara, or the teachers in the line, are so effective in transmitting our bhakti knowledge or experiences. But we don't talk about it enough. We just say that. But today, I think you gave an extremely well thought out way of showing how, from Prabhupada to various examples of Prabhupada disciples, have touched people's lives and become the spark, the Krishna spark, the Krishna magic. And it really portrayed that so well. I'm so grateful that you did this today. It's very deep. I think we often look for external things, books or videos and talks and things, but sometimes just hearing or speaking to a person for 5 minutes, the right person, is just like, that's the magic. And it's, and so I think, like, to me, it always seems like whenever one can travel with a group and get that sort of what we call association or connection, to interact, to meet, to talk with like-minded people, it's such a valuable opportunity to do that, like that, and get that inspiration and get that spark. So, encourage everybody to do a lot more of that, or just come to Alachua and visit the temple with all the devotees there for a program where some of the Mayapuris are there, or sometimes it's, like famous singers. It's just a very vibrant community. So just going to a vibrant community or temple that you feel sort of you resonate with is good. But thank you so much, Amrita. Yeah.
Thank you, Sravi Govinda.
And I see that Tanya, thank you for correcting, has her hand up again. Did you want to do another quick reflection?
Unless somebody else has one. I thought you said we had a few minutes, so I thought maybe I'd ask
Yeah,
another
I
one.
have
Yeah.
an anonymous one, but they said that they can wait. So you go ahead.
Okay. So I work in the corporate world, and pretty intense. I'm in cybersecurity, and I very often find it difficult to straddle between the corporate America, push and go and work 12 hours a day, and that's not enough, and you have to do more, and keep steady in my bhakti practice. And I struggle with what is my service. And I thought it was beautiful during our breakout group, Nartaki, if I have permission to share what you said. There was a moment where she had mentioned that she was advised that the job that she does every day is part of her service. And that was a really wonderful reminder today. I sometimes struggle with that because it's very male oriented business, very cutthroat. There's threat actors out there that are trying to steal corporate identities, not, even our personal identities trying to be stolen all the time. So it is a struggle. But I'm wondering, what advice, like most of the people that I speak to aren't really in that same place that I'm in. My Guru Maharaj, his community, and I chose him specifically because of this, is really helpful. But I just wondered if you had any advice on that, Amrita.
Yeah, I think that consulting our spiritual teachers is so helpful. I have found that to be really, really, really helpful. And being honest, like, okay, these are the feelings that come up when I'm engaged in this service, 9 to 5. And this is how I feel on Sunday night when I know I have to go back to work on Monday. And like, this is how many years in a row I felt this way. And I'm not saying it's negative feelings, it could be positive, right? But you kind of weigh that together with somebody who sees your nature in a Krishna conscious perspective, and it can be so helpful. Another thing, there's a devotee named Urmila, and she published a book with another devotee called Career Dharma that kind of gets into our nature in work, and how if we are, she says it's an act of violence against the self if we're in a prolonged state of working against our nature. And I did a call with her. She did a Urban Devi talk on this, so it's on the Urban Devi YouTube channel. But I did a talk with her, and it was so fun because I got to hash out like with her, like what I like, what I don't like what I want to do when I'm not getting paid, and all that kind of stuff. And it really helped me get a lot of clarity that I've been craving, and it was fun. So that's also another resource for you. But yeah, I mean, I'll just close on that question by saying we all know there's no perfect situation. This is the material world, and there is going to be frustration and challenge in every aspect of our life. We just have to decide, is it ultimately benefiting my devotional life in the long haul? Can I keep doing this in the long run? So.
Thank you so much. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
And thanks for that plug for Career Dharma. That is a great talk. And I put the link to the book in the chat for anybody who's interested in that as well. So like I said, I did get one anonymous kind of question, and hopefully you can just kind of do this in maybe 2 minutes or less, which might be asking too much of you. But they said that they were really touched when you shared about doing the interviews with the devotees, and especially the Srila Prabhupada disciples right before they left their body. And then especially like Sudharma and the other, and they were saying with interviews like that, which has been an interview that like made you cry as you were doing it, or that really moved you and that they were just curious?
I have found, so Namamrita and I have talked about this after the interviews for years. Like every time we do an interview, we feel this overwhelming sense of gratitude and amazement every single time. So, but also I can go back and listen to those interviews and and derive new fresh things out of them every time I listen to them. I remember when Sudharma Prabhu left her body, I know that my relationship with her really deepened through that experience. And so we maintained a relationship, quite a regular relationship after that. And when she passed, I was quite emotional, and I felt that the thing that came to my heart was, when will I become brave like her? Because she did so much for Vaishnavis, for women in spiritual life and Krishna consciousness, and she was so dedicated to that for so long. When can I be brave? When will I be brave like her? And it just it's a question for me moving forward that I hold so dear to my heart.
Thank you. I'm so glad that you got a chance to glorify Sudharma Devi Dasi Prabhu again, because yeah, I also had some brief experiences with her that were very moving being here in the Alachua community. And it's like they're so humble that you don't realize how influential they are, because when you meet them, they just seem like another Vaishnavi that's just happy to see you and wants to know about your life.
Yes.
And when I met her, she was in the hospital, like suffering. And she was just so grateful that I had brought her prasadam, and she just wanted to hear all about me. It was just, yeah. Anyway, please, everyone, check out the Nectar Talks YouTube. I put the link in the chat, and we'll get more of Amrita-keli's contact information and everything, so you can connect with her later. But on behalf of everyone here at Urban Devi and everyone that had to leave early, we're just so grateful for you to come, Amrita-keli. And I can see why our dear Rukmini was like, it's probably best that I'm in India for this session, because she's so humble that she would be like, I'm embarrassed to hear of the glorification of the Srila Prabhupada disciples, but I can see why. So we're so grateful, and just thank you so much. And before we finish, I just want to share that our next Urban Devi, for those who are here for the first time and want to continue this momentum, we'd love to have you join us for our next one, which is February 22nd. And we're going to be hearing from Jamuna Jaya Devi Dasi. She is from the Bhakti Center in New York City, and she may be familiar to a lot of you. And she's going to be talking on lessons from unlikely places. And she says, Shakespeare wrote that there are tongues in trees and good in everything, cueing us to the lessons that await us everywhere if we only have eyes to see. We will look at stories from the Bhakti tradition where lessons come in unlikely places, and explore unusual teachers in our own lives. So such a beautiful segue from what you've shared, Amrita-keli, and you don't even, like, you didn't coordinate this. It was just Krishna magic. So yeah, we hope that you can come on February 22nd to hear from Jamuna Jaya. She's an amazing Vaishnavi. She teaches yoga. She leads community groups. She's a mentor. She's a pujari, and she's also hilarious. She's really funny and just a sweetheart. So we hope that you all can join us. And thank you again for everyone that was here. Thank you to Surabhi Govinda Devi Dasi, Narataki Radha Devi Dasi for co-hosting. And we thank from far away our dear Rukmini Devi Dasi, that if it weren't for her, this Sangha would not be happening. And we're so grateful to her. So Hare Krishna, everyone. Hare Bo.